The New Orleans Saints. It only took 43 years, a hurricane, and a city that never gave up on its team to win Super Bowl 44. The New Orleans Saints, established November 1st, 1966, are a football team in the National Football League here in the United States. The Saints have been my favorite team ever since I could remember, and it started because my family and I are from Louisiana. I was born in Covington, just across the causeway over Lake Pontchartrain from New Orleans, so the team and the city really runs in my blood. First, I'll discuss the beginnings and the creation of the New Orleans Saints. Second, I'll briefly discuss the effect Hurricane Katrina had on the city and how the Saints were motivated by the hardships of its people and began their march to the Super Bowl 44. Finally, I will discuss the miracle season the Saints had, which earned their first and only Super Bowl victory. Unfortunately, the Saints, also sometimes referred to as the Aints, had a terrible start to their franchise. Even throughout the struggles, there was brief signs of hope and greatness, but it never led to anything. The New Orleans Saints had 20 years of losing seasons and only 2 even seasons, 8 and 8. 1979 and 1983. Honestly, we were awful. The first time we ever saw the playoffs didn't come until 1987, and even then, we lost that game 44-10 to the Minnesota Vikings. In 1980, the Saints lost the first 14 games of the season in a row, and that's the year we earned the name the Aints. That was it was a broadcaster. I can't remember his name. There's always good with the bad. The New Orleans Saints had little snippets of good plays and crazy record-setting stats. On the opening play of the first ever Saints play in history, wide receiver John Gillum ran the kickoff from the Los Angeles Rams back for a touchdown. Sadly, we lost that game 27-13. In 1970, Tom Dempsey kicked a 63-yard field goal to beat the Detroit Lions, setting an NFL record that lasted all the way up until 2013. The Broncos kicker just did it in 2013 and beat the record. The Saints' 1967 record of 3-11 tied the record for the most wins in a season by an expansion team. That was way back in the day, so that's obviously changed. The most notable player the Saints had in their 20 years of losses was Archie Manning. He's Eli and Peyton Manning's father. Archie Manning, a college Hall of Famer, led the Saints from 1971 to 1982. Although they were terrible as a team, Archie played in the Pro Bowl twice and won Offensive Player of the Year, 1978. His number is one of 3 numbers that are retired by the Saints, number 8. The other 2 were retired by 2 other players that didn't really do a whole lot for the Saints, but they were such popular people that we just retired the numbers for them. Archie won the Byron Whizzer White NFL Man of the Year Award, which was given to the player that best serves his team, community, and country. Things got better for the team once the 2000s came along. Not even a hurricane would stop the evolving New Orleans Saints. Hurricane Katrina may have physically destroyed New Orleans, but it gave the city new life and brought the people together, especially the Saints. In 2005, Katrina flooded the city of New Orleans and the Superdome filled up with homeless and helpless people. The stadium looked destroyed, and with the Saints still known as the Aints, there was talk of moving the team. Kathleen Blanco, she was the governor from 2004 to 2008 in Louisiana at the time, and she stood up for the Saints and fought to keep the stadium in New Orleans. After a few months of talk, the owner of the Saints, Tom Benson, decided to keep the Saints at home, and with the help of the governor, the Superdome was on a fast track to be ready in only 1 year after Katrina, September 2006. And guess what? On September 25th, 2006, 1 year later, the New Orleans Saints played their first game back in the Superdome against our rivals, the Atlanta Falcons, and we won an emotional hardship game, 23-3. We were back in business, and we finished that season 10-6. The following season was good, but not as good. It wasn't really good enough. In 2007, the Saints, we had our first appearance in the NFL championship game. We were only 1 win away from having a chance at the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, the Chicago Bears stripped away that opportunity and beat us 39-14. The only smile on Saints fans' faces after that was when Sean Payton received NFL Coach of the Year award for the following season from 2006, which is when the year after Katrina and all that. It was a really great year for us, and that's when he got the award. 2008 season, the season before the Super Bowl run, the Saints brought high-ranking numbers into the NFL history books. Drew Brees passed for 5,069 yards, the second most in a season in NFL history. Reggie Bush, the Saints running back at the time, ran 2 punts back for touchdowns in a loss against the Vikings, tying the NFL record for punt returns. Deuce McAllister created team history by scoring his 54th touchdown for the Saints that season. After years of hardships, accompanied with small victories, the Saints were ready to create history. And it was 2009, and it was our time to shine. The Saints were ready to go all the way to the World Championship for the first time in franchise history. We had an explosive season, going 13-0 without any signs of weakness. Week in and week out, we just kept winning. The Saints seemed impossible to beat, and with Drew Brees, who was named NFC Offensive Player of the Month in September after throwing for 1,200 yards in just 3 games, there was no end in sight for what we could do. After going 8-0 for the first time in franchise history, we were finally rated one of the highest ranked teams in the league. The Saints improved to 13-0, and we created franchise history once again. The regular season was coming to an end. Eventually, the gloating had to stop. Dallas Cowboys stepped up and gave us our first loss of the season. The Saints lost 3 of the last of that regular season's games. So we ended up going 13-3. The Cowboys beat us 24-17, and we didn't go down without a fight. The following game, the Buccaneers beat the Saints 20-17. We were up 17-0, and they came and fought and gave 20 unanswered points. Saints lost the next game as well against the Panthers, 23-10. Saints decided to bench Drew Brees, the star quarterback, and played without winning in mind. The Saints knew they clinched a spot in the playoffs, so they just took a break and kept their players healthy. Now it was time for the playoffs. The Saints, who lost the last 3 of the regular season games, seemed ready to turn things around. In the first playoff game versus the Cardinals, the Saints turned up the heat and upset Arizona 45-14. After conserving some energy for a month, the Saints came back and unleashed what we'd been missing the previous 3 games. It was the NFC Championship, and New Orleans was 1 win away from the Super Bowl. After 42 years of never seeing a chance at the Super Bowl, the Saints beat the Vikings 31-28. It was the first the Saints had ever won a championship game, and the city was full of energy. Finally, the time had come. It was Super Bowl 44, Saints versus Colts. The first half of the game was full of up and downs, including 2 punts in a row from the Saints, 3 and outs. There was no room for error, and the Saints knew it. The first half ended 6-10 with the Colts in the lead. After halftime, we shocked the world with an onside kick, and it actually recovered the ball. We went on to win 31-17 and gave Saints its first and only win in history. Super Bowl 44 was the 3rd most watched NFL event at that time. In conclusion, the Saints had rough beginnings and were arguably one of the worst teams in NFL history for 20 years, but with time and patience, the team was getting better. Once the mid-2000s came around, the Saints were ready to make a name for themselves. Hurricane Katrina should have slowed them down, but the Saints rebuilt and overcame. In 2009, the Saints had succeeded and became world champions. With a team like the Saints, hardships come often, but the spirit and strength of the city of New Orleans, not even a hurricane can stop them. They are world champions. Thank you.